The Grayson family left behind the constant hum of city life, trading skyscrapers and busy streets for the gentle pace of Oakhaven, a quiet New England town nestled among rolling hills and maple trees. The move was a leap of faith, a chance to start over, to find peace and maybe even a little adventure in a place where everyone seemed to know your name. Their new colonial home, with its white clapboard siding and wide front porch, promised a fresh start. The Graysons could almost feel the history in its walls, and the kids raced through empty rooms, their laughter echoing off hardwood floors. It was a house full of promise, waiting for new memories to be made. Eager to settle in and make the house a home, they visited the local animal shelter. There they met Daisy, a timid beagle mix with sad, gentle eyes and a cautious wag of her tail. She had been overlooked by others, but the Graysons saw something special in her. Daisy was gentle, grateful, and quickly became part of the family. She followed the children from room to room, curling up beside them on the couch and soaking up every bit of affection. It was as if she knew she'd finally found a place to belong. But the house had quirks, creaking floors, rattling windows, and the occasional draft that whispered through the halls. The Graysons found these oddities charming, reminders of the home's long history and the many families who had lived there before. Daisy, however, was uneasy, especially near the basement stairs. While she explored every other corner of the house, she'd stop short at the basement door, her body tense and her ears pinned back. She'd freeze, growl, and refuse to go down, no matter how much Tom coaxed her. Even treats and gentle encouragement couldn't persuade her to take a single step toward the darkness below. The family chalked it up to Daisy's rough past and gave her time. They figured she just needed to adjust, to learn that this house and its basement were safe. But as autumn arrived and the days grew shorter, Daisy's fear only grew. The rustle of leaves outside seemed to unsettle her, and she'd often sit by the window, watching the basement door with worried eyes. Now, she wouldn't even approach the basement. The mere sight of the door was enough to make her back away, tail tucked and body trembling. The unfinished space was practical for the Graysons, a place for storage and laundry, but for Daisy, it was a place of dread. She'd stare at the steps as if she could see something the family couldn't. She'd plant her paws at the top step, trembling, refusing to budge. No amount of coaxing or comfort could convince her otherwise. The family began to notice her fear wasn't fading. If anything, it was getting worse, and they started to worry that something more than just a bad memory was haunting Daisy. Something about the basement unsettled her deeply. She'd stare at the door for long stretches, her body rigid, as if listening for sounds no one else could hear. The Graysons started to wonder if Daisy sensed something they couldn't. Was it just the echoes of her past, or was there something about the house itself? Her silent alarm was growing louder, and the family couldn't ignore it any longer. The sense of unease began to creep into their own hearts. The new beginning was about to reveal an old secret, one that had been waiting in the shadows, just beneath their feet, for years. Daisy's anxiety focused on one spot in the basement, a section of the old stone wall. She'd bark and whimper, fixated as if warning the family. Nights were restless, her mournful cries echoing through the house. Nothing soothed her. The Graysons debated explanations, mice, wiring, maybe a trapped animal, but Tom found nothing. Emily and Josh whispered about ghosts, Tom clung to logic. Still, Daisy's behavior was too specific to ignore. The family agreed they had to investigate. That weekend, Tom grabbed a flashlight and hammer. The family watched anxiously from the stairs as Tom approached the wall. Daisy stood beside them, shaking, eyes locked on the spot. Whatever haunted Daisy was about to be revealed. Tom tapped the wall, solid, then suddenly hollow. The sound changed beneath his knuckles, a dull thud replaced by an empty echo. He paused, heart skipping, and pressed his ear to the cold stone, listening for something, anything, on the other side. Heart pounding, he chipped away at the mortar, each strike sending tiny shards flying. The old wall resisted, but Tom's curiosity was stronger than his fear. Sweat beaded on his brow as he worked, the silence of the basement broken only by the scrape of metal on stone. Dust filled the air, swirling in the shafts of light that filtered through the narrow window. Daisy barked sharply upstairs, her voice echoing down the stairwell, as if she sensed the tension building below. The musty smell of earth and decay grew stronger, seeping from the cracks as Tom dug deeper. The air felt heavier, thick with secrets long buried beneath the house. After nearly an hour of relentless effort, Tom pried loose a stone, revealing a dark cavity behind the wall. The stench that poured out was overwhelming, a foul reminder of something hidden and forgotten. He shone his flashlight inside and froze, the beam trembling in his unsteady hand. Shadows danced across the uneven surfaces, revealing shapes that made his skin crawl. Something pale, wrapped in rotted fabric, lay within the darkness. The fabric was stained and brittle, clinging to the object like a shroud. Tom's breath caught in his throat as he realized what he was seeing. Not an animal, not pipes, not anything he could have prepared for. Tom's blood ran cold, his mind racing with possibilities too terrible to name. "Call the police!" he managed, voice shaking as he fumbled for his phone. His hands trembled, barely able to dial, the reality of the discovery settling in. He backed away, sealing the basement door behind him, desperate to put distance between himself and the horror he'd uncovered. The lock clicked, but it did little to calm his nerves. Daisy finally fell silent, her warning understood. She sat at the top of the stairs, eyes wide, as if she too sensed the gravity of what had been found. The secret she sensed was real, a hidden horror in their home, lurking just beyond the walls they thought they knew. The Graysons' fresh start had uncovered a nightmare, shattering the peace they'd hoped to find in their new home. The past had clawed its way into their present. The whispers from the wall had become a scream, echoing through the house and into their lives. Old headlines and forgotten stories suddenly felt all too real. The family huddled together, shaken and uncertain, clinging to each other as the truth settled in. Their home would never feel the same. Daisy watched, her eyes knowing as if she'd always sensed the darkness hidden within these walls. The night the police arrived, the quiet Graysons' home was instantly transformed. Flashing lights and the low hum of radios shattered the stillness, as officers moved with purpose, cordoning off the property and ushering the family outside. What had once been a place of laughter and comfort was now a scene of tense anticipation and dread. Down in the cold, shadowy basement, investigators made a chilling discovery: a human skeleton, tightly wrapped in a tattered, faded blanket. The air was thick with dust and secrets, and every step echoed with the weight of what they'd found. Forensic teams worked through the night, carefully analyzing the remains. It wasn't long before they identified the victim, Victor Dempsey, a young man who had vanished without a trace back in 1998. His face, once plastered on missing persons posters, was now at the center of a decades-old mystery. Victor had been employed by the home's previous owner, Harold Milner. Milner was known in the neighborhood as a reclusive figure, rarely seen and even more rarely spoken to. Whispers about his shadowy past had circulated for years, but no one suspected the darkness that lingered behind his closed doors. When questioned years ago, Milner claimed Victor had simply vanished, leaving no clues behind, but now, with the evidence unearthed, the truth was undeniable. The case, once considered cold, was suddenly burning with new revelations. Neighbors began to recall strange events from that summer, heated arguments in the yard, and the sudden, urgent repairs Milner made to the basement wall soon after Victor disappeared. The pieces of the puzzle, long scattered, were finally coming together. It became clear Milner had killed Victor and sealed his body within the very walls he'd repaired. The truth, hidden for decades, was now exposed for all to see. With Milner long deceased, justice in the traditional sense was impossible. Yet, for Victor's family, the discovery brought long-awaited answers and a measure of peace. They could finally mourn, knowing what had happened to their beloved son and brother. News of the grisly discovery spread quickly, and the Graysons' house became infamous overnight. Reporters and curious onlookers crowded the street, eager to glimpse the home that had hidden such a terrible secret. The Graysons, shaken to their core, struggled to reclaim a sense of normalcy. Their home, once filled with warmth, now felt haunted by the past, its silence heavy with memories and loss. In the end, it was Daisy, the family's loyal dog, whose fear and persistence led to the truth. Her unease in the basement had been the first clue, a silent warning that something was terribly wrong. The darkness that had lingered in the basement for so many years was finally brought to light. Oakhaven would never forget the ghost named Victor, or the secrets that had lain hidden just beneath their feet. The case closed, but the Graysons' lives were forever altered. They rebuilt the basement wall, but the memory lingered. Daisy, once a timid rescue, was hailed as a hero. The local news called her the dog that solved a cold case. She received a medal and endless treats. For the Graysons, Daisy was more than a pet. She was family and a savior. They had rescued her, but she had saved them and given peace to a lost soul. The house still held its secrets, but thanks to Daisy, one tragedy had found its ending. The family would never forget the brave dog who brought the truth to light. In Oakhaven, Daisy's story became legend.